If every tap in your world went dry today, right now, how long would you survive? Most people guess weeks. The actual answer is 3 days. Under a hot sky, with your body working hard, that window collapses to hours. You lose 1 liter of sweat every hour in the heat. Water is not a comfort. It is the clock everything else runs on. For hundreds of thousands of years, the entire human story turned on one question: where is the water? There were no pipes, no plastic bottles, no refrigerators humming with filtered certainty. This is the story of how they read it, and how close we all came to getting it wrong. They could not afford to wander blind. So they learned to read a landscape the way you read a face, for signs, for clues, for tells. Herbivores, especially large ones, walk to water at dawn and dusk, leaving trails pressed into the grass. Pigeons and doves in Africa fly in straight, low lines toward water in the morning. Bees, in drier climates, tend to build within a short flight of a reliable source. These were not stories. They were facts, tested over lifetimes, passed forward with precision. A line of greener grass cutting across drier ground meant water moving below the surface. Certain trees, fever trees in Africa, willows in other latitudes, almost never grow far from groundwater. Scratch down a handspan and find darkness in the soil, and you were close. These were the maps. They existed entirely in the minds of people who never stopped paying attention. But attention by itself is not enough. Here is where the bones go quiet, and then speak again. In 1980, a rock shelter was excavated in the Western Cape of South Africa. The site is called Diepkloof. Archaeologists found something nobody quite expected: 270 fragments of ostrich eggshell. Not kitchen waste, not decoration. These fragments had been drilled with small, clean holes, entry points, and bore the geometry of containers once sealed and carried. Their age? Between 60,000 and 65,000 years old. Each shell held approximately 1 liter of water, light enough to carry, strong enough to survive the journey. These were not accidental. They were manufactured. They were, in every sense that matters, the world's first canteen. On the outer surface of dozens of shells, the makers had engraved geometric patterns, parallel lines, hatched bands, repeated angles. These were ownership marks, telling you whose water this was, which lineage had filled this vessel. Without that system, the water stayed where the rain left it. With it, the desert became navigable. Carrying water is not just a practical problem. It is a cognitive one. You have to imagine a future self who will be thirsty somewhere that is currently dry. The ostrich eggshell canteen is not just a container. It is the first evidence of a water supply chain, run entirely from memory. The Sand People of the Kalahari, one of the oldest continuous cultures on Earth. In periods of deep drought, when even the sand-filtered moisture runs low, sand hunters create what ethnographers call sip wells. They pack the hole with soft grass to act as a filter, then insert a long, hollow reed. They kneel down and draw the water up through the reed by suction, transferring it directly into the mouth of an ostrich egg. Then they walk to the next position on their mental map, and they bury it. They may not return for weeks. They will remember exactly where it is. A hunter-gatherer band moving through the southern Kalahari was not traveling blind. They were walking a network. Your body can lose 3 liters on a hard walking day in the heat. 1 egg holds just over a liter. 3 eggs buried in the right places meant a family could cross a stretch of land that would otherwise kill them. Not bravely, not dramatically, just cross it. Now go back further, much further. At a site called Kalambo Falls, on the border of Zambia and Tanzania, archaeologists excavating a waterlogged riverbank in 2023 found something that collapsed the usual timeline. 2 large logs, fitted together with a deliberately cut notch, preserved in the saturated sand for 476,000 years. The oldest known wooden structure ever found. It predates Homo sapiens entirely. This was built by an earlier hominin, possibly Homo heidelbergensis. The waterlogged conditions that rotted everything else preserved these 2 logs precisely because the water never stopped. These hominins were not wandering, they had stopped. They had found a permanent water source and built something beside it. 500,000 years ago, the decision to settle, the decision that eventually became villages, then cities, then taps, began with the knowledge that this river would not lie. And then there is the moment the whole story nearly ended. 164,000 years ago, the planet was deep in a glacial period. Africa's interior was drying out. Homo sapiens, barely 40,000 years old as a species, was in danger of extinction. Our ancestral population may have collapsed to a remnant, a number so small that all 8 billion humans alive today flow from only a few thousand individuals. What saved them was a coastline, specifically the southern tip of Africa, near what is now Mossel Bay. At a site called Pinnacle Point, humans retreated to caves on the cliff face above the sea. They ate shellfish. They used ochre. They survived. The caves still hold the evidence of that survival. Small springs that seeped from the cliff rock when the rivers inland had stopped. The population that crawled through that bottleneck is your population. The knowledge of where to find water, how to carry it, how to map it and cache it, that knowledge is part of what carried your ancestors through. The specific skills are mostly gone now, but the body you live in was built by people who had them. Next time you fill a glass from a tap, that instant, effortless response to thirst, notice what you are not doing. You are not reading the angle of bird flight at dawn. You are not pressing your palm into the earth to feel for moisture. You are not kneeling in the sand with a reed between your lips, coaxing water out of a desert that has not given anything else up in months. Someone, somewhere in the chain behind you, did all of those things and got it right. Learn more.